Gandalf. If you had heard only a quarter of what I have heard about him, and I have only heard very little of all there is to hear, you would be prepared for any sort of remarkable tale. Tales and adventures sprouted up all over the place wherever he went, and in the most extraordinary fashion. He had not been down that way under the hill for ages and ages. Not since his friend, the old Took, died, in fact, and the hobbits had almost forgotten what he looked like. He had been away over the hill and across the water on business of his own since they were all small hobbit boys and hobbit girls. All that the unsuspecting Bilbo saw that morning was an old man with a staff. He had a tall, pointed blue hat, a long gray cloak, a silver scarf over which his long white beard hung down below his waist, and in immense black boots. "Good morning," said Bilbo, and he meant it. The sun was shining and the grass was very green, but Gandalf looked at him from under the long bushy eyebrows that stuck out further than the brim of his shady hat. "What do you mean?" he said. "Do you wish me a good morning, or mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not, or that you feel good this morning, or that it is a good morning to be good on?" "All of them at once," Bilbo said. "And a very fine morning for a pipe of tobacco out of doors, into the bargain. If you have a pipe about you, sit down and have a fill of mine. There's no hurry, we have all the day before us." Then Bilbo sat down on a seat by his door, crossed his legs, and blew out a beautiful gray ring of smoke that sailed up into the air without breaking and floated away over the hill. "Very pretty," said Gandalf, "but I have no time to blow smoke rings this morning. I am looking for someone to share in an adventure that I am arranging, and it is very difficult to find anyone." "I should think so in these parts. We are plain quiet folk and have no use for adventures. None whatsoever." And so this is for all of the operators: Danger Strong, Racer Rex, Coyote Bear, Navajo Talker, and Raven One. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things make you late for dinner. I can't think what anybody sees in them, said Mr. Baggins, and stuck out one thumb behind his braces and blew out another, even bigger smoke ring. Then he took out his morning letters and began to read, pretending to take no more notice of the old man. He had decided that he was not quite his sort and wanted him to go away, but the old man did not move. He stood leaning on his stick and gazing at the hobbit without saying anything, till Bilbo got quite uncomfortable and even a little cross. "What a lot of things you do use good morning for," said Gandalf. "Now you mean that you want to get rid of me and that it won't be good till I move off." Not at all, my dear sir. Let me see. I don't think. I know your name." Yes, my dear sir. And I do know your name, Mr. Bilbo Baggins, and you know my name, though you don't remember that I belong to it. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me. To think that I should have lived to be good morninged by Belladonna Took's son, as if I was selling buttons at the door. Gandalf, good gracious me, not the wonderful wandering wizard that gave old Took a pair of magic diamond studs that fastened themselves and never came undone till ordered, not the fellow who used to tell such wonderful tales at parties about dragons and goblins and giants and the rescue of princesses and the unexpected luck of widows' sons, not the man that used to make such particularly excellent fireworks. I remember those. Old Took used to have them on Midsummer's Eve. Splendid! They used to go up like great lilies and snapdragons and laburnums of fire and hang in the twilight all evening. You'll already notice that Mr. Baggins was not quite so prosy as he liked to believe, also that he was very fond of flowers. Dear me, he went on, not the Gandalf who was responsible for so many quiet lads and lasses going off into the blue for mad adventures, anything from climbing trees to visiting elves. or sailing in ships, sailing to other shores. Bless me. Life used to be so quite you used to upset things badly in these parts once upon a time. I beg your pardon, but I had no idea you still were in the business. Where else should I be, said the wizard. All the same, I am pleased to find you remember something about me. You seem to remember my fireworks kindly, at any rate, and that is not without hope. Indeed, for your old grandfather Took's sake, and for the sake of poor Belladonna, I will give you what you have asked for. I beg your pardon, I haven't asked for anything. Yes, you have, twice now. My pardon. I give it to you. In fact, I will go so far as to send you on this adventure. Very amusing for me, very good for you, and profitable too, very likely, if you ever get over it. Sorry, I don't want any adventures, thank you. Not today, good morning, but please come to tea anytime you like. Why not tomorrow? Come tomorrow. Goodbye. And with that, the hobbit turned and scuttled inside his round green door and shut it as quickly as he dared, not to seem rude. Wizards are, after all, wizards. What on earth did I ask him to tea for? He said to himself as he went to the pantry. He had only just had breakfast, but he thought a cake or two and a drink of something would do him good after his fright. Gandalf, in the meantime, was still standing outside the door and laughing long but quietly. After a while, he stepped up and with the spike on his staff scratched a queer sign on the hobbit's beautiful green front door. Then he strode away. Just about the time when Bilbo was finishing his second cake and beginning to think he had escaped adventures very well. The next day he had almost forgotten about Gandalf. He did not remember things very well unless he put them down on his engagement tablet, like this: Gandalf, tea Wednesday. Yesterday he had been too flustered to do anything of the kind. Just before tea time there came a tremendous ring on the front doorbell, and then he remembered. He rushed about and put on the kettle, and then put another cup and saucer and an extra cake or two and ran to the door. I am so sorry to keep you waiting, he was going to say, when he saw it was not Gandalf at all. It was a dwarf with a blue beard tucked into a golden belt and very bright eyes under his dark green hood. As soon as the door was open, he pushed inside, just as if he had been expected. He hung his hooded cloak on the nearest peg. Dwalin, at your service, he said with a low bow. Bilbo Baggins at yours, said the hobbit, too surprised to ask any questions at the moment. When the silence that followed had become uncomfortable, he added, I am just about to take tea. Pray, come and have some with me. A little stiff, perhaps, but he meant it kindly. And what would you do if an uninvited dwarf came and hung his things up in your hall without a word of explanation? They had not been at table long. In fact, they had hardly even reached the third cake, when there came another, even louder ring at the bell. Excuse me, said the hobbit, and off he went to the door. So, you have got here at last. That's what he was going to say to Gandalf this time. But it was not Gandalf. Instead, it was a very old-looking dwarf on the step, with a white beard and a scarlet hood, and he, too, hopped inside as soon as the door was open, just as if he had been invited. I see they have begun to arrive already, he said when he caught sight of Dwalin's green hood hanging up. He hung his red one next to it. Balin, at your service, he said with his hand on his breast. Thank you, said Bilbo with a gasp. This was not the correct thing to say, but they have begun to arrive had flustered him badly. He liked visitors, but he liked to know them before they arrived, and he preferred to ask them himself. He had a horrible thought that the cakes might run short, and then he, as the host, he knew his duty, and he stuck to it however painful, might have to go without. Come along, come in and have some tea, he managed to say after taking a deep breath. A little beer would suit me better. I love dwarves. If it's all the same to you, my good sir. So, there we are, and we'll continue next time.